Hello everyone. In today's Blender tutorial, we are going to create the summer poolside scene from scratch. By the end of this video, you will have a beautiful environment, a fully customized character, and then you can create renders like this. One of my favorite things about scenes like this is that once the environment and character are finished, you can turn it into a complete photo shoot. You can experiment with different camera angles, character poses, and lighting setups to create a whole collection of beautiful renders. Don't worry if you are still new to Blender, a basic understanding of the interface is enough to follow along. And if you would like to see more Blender tutorials like this one, feel free to subscribe to the channel. So, what are we going to build? We will start with the environment by creating the swimming pool, water, backyard fence, grass, flowers, a poolside lawn chair, and a beach umbrella. Then we will create our character using a ready-to-use base mesh and customize it. After that, we will create accessories and clothing for the character, including shorts, a Hawaiian shirt, a bucket hat, and sunglasses. Once the character is ready, we will rig it, create natural poses, and place it around the scene. Finally, we will add a simple sunlight setup and render everything to achieve this relaxing summer vibe. Alright, let's get started. You can see the hotkeys that I'm using over here. I'm going to select everything in the scene and then X delete and then Shift A, mesh, and I bring a plane. Then I press N to open up this sidebar menu, and under item you can see that this plane is 2 meters by 2 meters and I want it to be like 10 meters for each side. So S multiplied by 5 and it is 10 meters now. Then I press N to close that panel and then tab to go inside edit mode and then Ctrl R to bring up the loop cut tool. And by scrolling the mouse wheel I can define the number of cuts here. I want 2 cuts here, and then Ctrl R again to add another 2 cuts here. And then I press 2 to go inside edge mode and I hold down the Alt key and click here to select this edge and then add shift to it and click here to select this edge as well. And then SY to scale them apart from each other like this. And then I press 3 to go inside face mode, and this face is going to be our pool, so E to extrude it like this, looking at it from the side view, and then Alt Z to turn on the X-ray mode, and then 1 to go inside vertex mode, and I want to select these vertices here, and GZ to bring them down like this, and Ctrl R to add another loop cut here. And I want to select these vertices and SZ0 to zero them out in Z axis. And then I can select all the vertices SY to make the pool a little bit smaller in Y direction only. Alright, now Alt C to turn off the X-ray mode, and I want to deselect these vertices here by holding down the Ctrl key. Let's go inside edge mode, and I also want to deselect these edges here and tab to go back inside object mode and Ctrl A to apply all transforms, and let's go back to edit mode, and now I want to give it some bevels, so Ctrl B to give some bevels, and by scrolling the mouse wheel you can define the number of faces here. I think this is good now. Let's go back to object mode and right click shade smooth. Yeah, this is perfect. But I want to add a few more cuts. So looking at it from the top view and Ctrl R to add a cut here and add another one here. I'm doing this because I want to make these areas around the pool white. So Ctrl R again and one more. Yeah, perfect. So now I want to give it some material. So I click on this material tab and I click on new, and I want it to be a dark shade of brown. Let's switch to material preview here. Like for the garden area. and then I press tab to go inside edit mode, and in face mode I'm going to select these faces, but it's hard to select these little faces here, so I select everything by pressing A and then looking at it from the top view, and then I'm going to deselect these vertices, these faces, sorry. Like that, and these two as well. Alright, now let's click on this plus button, a new, and make it a light blue for the pool, and assign. We can always change these colors later during the render time. And now I want to select these faces around the pool that we created before. I'm just holding down the shift key and click to select them, and click on this plus button, new, and white is good for now, and just assign that. Let's go back to object mode and let's rename it to pool. Let's save the project now, file, save as on desktop, and I'm going to call it pool. Save as. Okay, now I want to make those backyard walls. So Shift A, mesh, and I bring a cube. Let's switch to solid mode and then GZ to bring it up. And I want to make it a lot smaller. And then I press dot on my numpad to focus on it, and then SY to make it thinner like this. And then SX, and I want to make it taller in Z direction. Alright. Let's press tab to go inside edit mode, and I want to add a cut here, and I want to turn on the X-ray mode, and I want to select these vertices at the top, and then GZ to bring them up like this. Let's turn off the X-ray, and I want to select all the edges, so 2 for the edge mode and A to select them all, and then hold down the control key and deselect these 2 edges. And before giving it a bevel, let's switch to object mode and Ctrl A and apply all transforms, and go back to edit mode and Ctrl B to add a bevel like this. Alright, and right click, shade smooth. Now I want to give it an array modifier. So here in modifiers tab, add modifier, generate array, and I want like 30 of them. And I want some space between them, some more space than 1. So I'm going to slide it to the right like this and make it smaller. Let's bring it over here. And I'm putting it to the place, looking at it from different angles and find a good position for it. Maybe a little bit bigger. Sorry, GX to bring it over here. And let's make it 35. And I want to make a copy, so Shift D to make a copy, and then R to rotate the copy, and then Z to rotate it in Z direction, and then 90 to make it 90 degrees, and negative to flip it to the other side. And I want to bring it over here. Yeah. Maybe move this one here from the top view. It's easier to find the right place. Yeah. Let's give it some materials. So in materials tab, I'm going to click on new, and I want to turn up the roughness to 1. Let's switch to material preview. and we can change the color here. I think this is good, and we can always change it later. And same material for this one. Perfect. So now I can move on and make the next part. So Ctrl S to save the project for now. Alright, now I want to make two planes to distribute the flowers and the grass on them. So before that, let's select both of them and find a better position for it. I think this is better now. Alright, now select the ground and then looking at it from the top view, and I want to select these vertices here and then GX to bring them here, and then select these vertices and GY to bring them down like this. Alright, now let's go in face mode, and I want to select these faces here, maybe this one too, and then Shift D to make a copy and Z to bring that copy up this way. If I go to object mode, you can see that this is still one single object. So inside edit mode, while the new faces are selected, press P selection. And now if I go back to object mode, you can see that I can select them independently from each other here in outliner and in viewport as well. So I'm going to make another copy of this one for the flowers. So I'm going to distribute the grass on this one. Let's rename it to grass plane, and then Shift D Z to make another copy and name this one flowers plane. Alright, I can hide this one, and let's do the grass first. Okay, let's make the grass now. So make sure you have selected the plane, which is the grass plane, as you can see it over here, and remove these materials because the grass is supposed to be green and we don't need those materials. We can add a material now and change it to green for the grass, like something like dark green, something like that. And then I click on these particles and then click on this plus button and switch from emitter to hair. The hair is already added, as you can see, but it's too long. It's 4 meters long and I want it to be like 0.02 maybe, and we can change it later. And I want the number to be like 20,000. So we have a lot more now. And then under children, I want to switch from none to interpolation, so I get a lot more grass with less render time this way. So to make some randomness for grass, here under children and under roughness, you have to slide these parameters to the right and left to find the best number that works for you. I'm going to change the randomness to something like 0.02, and you can see it has a little bit of randomness now. And the size to let it be 1 for now, shape to 2 maybe, and the end point I want a little bit of increase, like 0.02. And if I switch to viewport shading mode, you can see that I can only see the hairlines. There is no geometry. Even if I switch to viewport render, I still can only see hairs, not the actual geometry. That's because of the render engine that we are currently in. So if I switch from Eevee to cycles, we can see the geometry now. And to GPU compute, let's add a light here. Shift A, light, and I bring a sunlight just for better visualization. Let's zoom on it and check our beautiful grass. It's good for now. We can change those parameters later, but it's too long. I want to make it a little bit shorter, like 0.01. Yeah, that's the grass for now. And the thing is, we're gonna see the plane in render. We have to open up this source, not the source, the render. Under the render, we have to uncheck this show emitter, so we are not going to see the plane itself during the render. So that's that. Change these parameters under children while we are in particles. Under children and under roughness, change these parameters to make the best looking grass. And then let's switch to viewport shading, and then GZ. Let's select the plane and GZ to bring it down to the place which is the ground. Sorry for the lag. You know, I can decrease this number, the number here from to 1000 for now, so I can put it to the place and then change it back to 20,000. I think the place is good, and we have to adjust it later anyway, so let's make it back to 20,000. Alright, here is the grass. Next, I'm going to make the flowers. So Ctrl S to save it. Alright, now that we are done with the grass, we can just look at it from different angles and check this out. This is a beautiful grass, I believe. And this different kind of shading that you can see over here, that's gonna be alright in renders. But if you don't want to see it even in viewport, we can just hit backslash on the keyboard to solo it out, and then press tab to go inside edit mode. And if we just dissolve these edges, we're gonna get rid of them. Let's go back to object mode, and you can see it's a different kind of shading now. So this one too, right click and dissolve edge, and this one as well. Let's check it out. Yeah, this is alright now. So if I hit backslash again to bring everything else back, you can see that it's perfect. Alright, now let's make a flower. Alright, now let's make a flower. For the flower, I'm going to switch to viewport solid mode, and then Shift A, mesh, and I bring a UV sphere, and then GZ to bring it up, and S to make it a lot smaller. And I want to solo it out by hitting the backslash key, and then SZ to make it a smaller in Z axis only, and then Ctrl 2 to give it a subdivision surface modifier of level 2, and then right click shade smooth. Let's look at it from the top view. I want to make a copy, Shift D to make a copy, and then Y to bring it over here. I want to make it a little bit bigger like this and thinner. Let's look at it from the side view, and a little bit of rotation, it's not a bad idea. Yeah, perfect. Now I want to make a copy like 4 more copies, but not in a free form. So Ctrl Z, I want to change it from bounding box or median point to 3D cursor, because the 3D cursor is right at the center now, and that is what I want. So Shift D and then R to make a copy like this, and then Shift R to repeat that action 4 more times. You can even adjust them manually, that really doesn't matter. Alright, now let's select all of them and join them together, and then in material tab I'm going to give them a white color. The default color is good actually, so let's switch to viewport material preview, and then select this one and make it yellow, just like that. Alright, next Shift A, mesh, and I bring a cylinder, and let's go back to solid mode, and I want to make it a lot smaller, and GZ to bring it up, and SZ to make it longer. Don't forget to bring the transform pivot point back to median point. SZ to make it taller, and GZ to bring it down. perfect. And I want to give it a few cuts because later I want these flowers to be randomly moving toward different angles, so it needs some cuts here so they can actually bend. And let's solo it out, only the cylinder here, and select this face and I to insert the face, and this one too, and Ctrl 2 to give it a subdivision surface modifier of level 2, and right click, shade smooth, and bring everything else back. Alright, now let's select these as well and solo them. And now I need some leaf, so Shift A, mesh, and I bring a plane, and let's add a cut here, add another cut here, and select these vertices and SY, and let's turn off the proportional editing, and then SY to make them small like this, SY. You know, it's really your personal preference. You don't have to do it exactly like me. Just do the way you want to do. I'm sure you're gonna make a better leaf. Now let's select all the faces. So 3 to go to face mode and select all of them, and then E to extrude it out. You can use solidify modifier as well, and then Ctrl 2 to add a subdivision surface modifier of level 2, and right click, shade smooth, and let's select these faces here and these faces at the bottom and insert them like that. Perfect. Now I want to turn on the X-ray mode, and I want to select these vertices here and bring them up just like that. All right, let's bring it to the place I want. That is too tall in my opinion, so SX to make it a bit shorter, and bring it here and rotate it like this. And it's still too long, I guess, so SXX again, nah, SYY, nah, SZZ, nah. So I think the leaf is too long now, so let's go back to edit mode, turn on the X-ray mode, select these vertices and bring them down. You know, you have to select the vertices in here and make them perfect. I want to make them smaller, make these smaller also. Alright, turn off the X-ray mode, and then let's shift right click here so the 3D cursor is right at the center in here, and then switch to 3D cursor again, the transform pivot point from medium point to 3D cursor again, and then shift the R 180. That didn't work, so shift the R Z 180. Yeah. Alright, you can spend as much as time you want here to make the best leaves, but I think this is good for me now. So I want to make them green, so let's select all 3 of these, or maybe this one I'm going to use the grass green that I already have. Let's switch to material preview, and this one I want a lighter green, so something like this. Yeah, perfect. Let's rename it to leaf. sorry, leaf, and this one too. All right, now because all of them has a subdivision surface modifier of level 2, everything in here, I can just select all of them and Ctrl J to join them together and rename this sphere to flower, and backslash to bring everything else back. And I can just move it to this side and make it a smaller. Let's change the transform pivot point back to median point again and make it smaller. I can even right click and set origin and origin to geometry, so that makes a lot more sense now. So next I'm going to bring back the flower plane, and let's remove the material of it. In material tab, it doesn't need those materials. Next I want to distribute this flower on this plane. So let's do that, but before that, don't forget to save the project. Ctrl S to save. All right, now let's distribute this flower on this plane. I'm going to select the plane and then click on these particles and then click on plus button and switch from emitter to hair. And we don't have to change any of these settings here because under the render and in render as, I want to change it from path to object, and then click on this eyedropper tool and introduce an object for this instance, and click on this flower. While the eyedropper is selected, click on this flower in outliner, and you can see the flower is already got distributed. But there's too many of them, like 1,000, but I want it to be like 50 flowers only in this garden. And you can see the rotation is off, and here still in particles tab, under let me find it, under object, under render, and then under object, we have to activate this checkbox, and then we can click on this flower, and if I hit R on my keyboard, you can see the flower is getting rotated. And there's a problem. You can see that if I rotate it 90 degrees exactly, so RY 90, the position is off. Let's hit Ctrl Z. The solution in here is I hit dot on my numpad so I can focus on this main flower. The catch in here is to get the flower rotated exactly from here. So I'm going to shift right click here to bring the 3D cursor here, and then right click, set origin, and origin to 3D cursor. So the origin is here now, then I can hit shift C to send the origin back to the center of the world. So now if I rotate the flower RY 90, you can see the position is correct now. Let's select the plane again, and then under particles, here under render, I want some scale randomness. If I expand this panel, you can see that it's randomness. So let's slide it to the right, so you can see the flowers have different scales now, and I can make them bigger or smaller in here, maybe more randomness. Yeah, perfect. Let's hit tab, let's check it from different angles, and it's all right now. Let's press Ctrl S to save. Okay, now the thing is, all these flowers have the same rotation value. All the leaves, if you pay attention here, you can see they are in same direction. So select the plane, and then here let's close all these, and then if we turn on this advanced here, you can see there will be a rotation tab as well. Activate this one, and then we have to give it some randomness here, so randomize it. If it didn't work, it didn't work. So yeah, we have to change the orientation. The orientation is the orientation of this main flower. So if we change it from velocity here to object Z, I mean the Z of this object. You can see now if I turn on this randomize, some of these flowers are getting rotated, which we want to have. All right, now let's go under viewport display, and then turn off this show emitter, so we are not going to see the plane even in viewport. We can do the same for the grass, so let's select it, and then under viewport display, turn off the show emitter. All right, select the flowers again, and we can bring it down and put it to the place. But before that, let's imagine we don't want some of these flowers, and we have to weight paint the plane to tell the plane where to grow flowers and where to not. Okay, to control where the flowers will be existing and where be no flowers at all, we have to do a weight paint, and we have to introduce a vertex group. So we have to make a lot of vertices here so we can weight paint the vertices. So let's go inside edit mode, and inside face mode, I'm going to select all the faces, but before that let's select these edges. We don't need them. I'm holding down the shift key and select these edges here, and then X and dissolve edges, and then I'm going to select all the faces and right click, subdivide, open up this panel and change its number to something like 40. 40 is good, 30 is also good. So now if I go back to object mode, and then here I click on this data tab, and the vertex group, I'm going to click on this plus button, and I'm going to name it something like no flowers. And then I go back to particles, and then under vertex groups, of course, because we want to introduce a vertex group which we just made, and here in density I'm going to select the no flowers. So now if I go inside weight paint, and then I click on this vertex selection, and I press A to select all these vertices, and in data tab I'm going to assign all these vertices to this no flowers group. So now if I hold down the control key and paint negatively, there will be no flowers. So we can always come back here and control the flowers places. All right, now let's go back to object mode, and then looking at it from the side view, and then GZ and bring it down to the place. Let's hit dot on my numpad to focus on it, and maybe a little bit lower, GZ, and bring it down like that. Perfect. So we are done with the flowers. We can select this flower and turn the eye and the render off, so we are not going to see that flower again anymore. All right, Control S to save. All right, before moving on and making some outdoor furnitures, I wanna change some of these proportions here. So I'm going to select the ground and enter inside edit mode, looking at it from the top view, Alt C to turn on the X-ray mode so I can select all these vertices here, and then GX, let me turn off the proportional editing, and then GX to bring these vertices here so the pool is actually smaller in X direction. All right, and I want more space in here because most of the poses my character gonna get is like standing in here and stuff. So I'm going to edit mode again, but for that let me first select this plane, the grass plane, and then inside edit mode I'm going to select these vertices and then GX and bring them here. This much more space I want in here. If I go back to object mode, you can see that the grass has extended like this. Next I want to do the same thing for the flower plane. So inside the edit mode I select these vertices in here, and then turn on the proportional editing and GX to bring them here like so. you can see the flowers are already distributed in new areas. So if I go to particles, and here under emission I can convert it to 100 to get more flowers. So it is really flexible. So next, select the ground and select these vertices, and then GX. Let me turn off the proportional editing, and GX to bring them here. And I can even use, now it's better to do the GX command and put them in their new place. And I can make more in modifiers tab, like 45. Let me make sure that they are in right place. Yeah. And next, select the ground again, and inside edit mode select these vertices and bring them here, I guess. GY, and bring these vertices here. Alright, much better now. So I have some space for the outdoor furnitures. Let's press Ctrl plus S to save the project for now. Alright, now let's make the bed. So Shift A, mesh, and a plane, then GZ, and bring it up. Let's switch to solid mode, and inside edit mode and edge mode I want to hit Ctrl R to add a loop cut here, and then looking at it from the side view, and inside edit mode select these vertices here, and G, I have to turn on the X-ray mode first, and then select them, and G to bring it up here, something like this, and select these vertices GX and bring them over here. I can select it all and then SY to scale it down like this. Now let's select this edge and then Ctrl B and to add a bevel like this, and then select all the faces and Alt E and extrude faces along normals. I can turn off the X-ray mode, and inside object mode Ctrl 2 to give it a subdivision surface modifier, and then Ctrl R to add a cut here and another one here, and let's add two cuts in here. Ctrl R and scroll the mouse wheel and double click, and then SY to scale them apart from each other like this. I want it to be here because I want to select these faces later, and I will show you how. So let's go back to object mode and right click, shade smooth, and I want to make it smaller in Y axis. Now let's select these faces, hold down the shift key and add to the selection, deselect that one and select these as well. Let's check the selection. I hit dot on my numpad so I can focus on it, and add these little faces as well. Alright, now I want to make a copy of them. So Shift D to make a copy, and then right click to release it right there, and then P for separate menu and choose selection. So they are now two different objects that I can select independently from each other. If I go back to object mode, you can see that I can select them like this, and select this one, the new one, and hit A to select all the faces, and then Alt E and extrude faces along normals again, like that. And I can select these faces, this one here, and hold down the shift key and select these two as well, and then I to insert them in like that, and then right click, shade smooth. That's not necessary actually. So now I want to add one loop cut here and another one here. Control R to add one here, and Control R again to add another one. Let's go back to object mode, and then hold down the shift key and right click here to bring the 3D cursor here, and then shift A mesh, and I bring a cylinder and I scale it down quite a lot. Let's bring another one. So shift A mesh and cylinder, and here I want to reduce the number of vertices to 12. That's more than enough, and I scale it down. GX to move it here, and then I want to hit backslash on my keyboard and select this face and insert them in, and add a cut here, add another one here, and then get out of the solo mode, and then Ctrl 2 to add a subdivision surface modifier, and then right click, shade smooth, and shift the X to bring the copy, the second one here, and shift the X again and bring this one here, and then SZ to make it taller. Alright, now I'm going to, because all of them are having the same modifier, the subdivision surface modifier of level 2, I can hold down the shift key and add to selection. I want to mirror these to the other side, so select this one, this one, this one, and then control. So forget about the same subdivision surface modifier. I don't want to mirror this part here, just these three. Select them and then Control J to join them together, and then add modifier, and under generate I'm going to add a mirror modifier, and then pick this eyedropper tool and click here, and then change it from X to Y axis. Perfect. Now let's select this part and make it kind of a white material. Leave it with default material for now, and then select this one, and I want it to be brown, just like this brown material that I already have, which is for the ground here. So select this one too and give it the same brown material that we can always adjust later. So now I want to select everything in here and press Ctrl J to join them together, but you can see the mirror modifier is gone. So let's select this part and bring the mirror modifier to the first place, because whenever we want to apply a modifier, it has to be at the first place. So hover the mouse over it now, and then Ctrl A to apply the modifier, and then select the rest of parts, and then Ctrl J to join them together, and we can rename it to whatever we like, bed. And then let's move it to the place. G to bring it over here, and it has to be a lot smaller like this, and then RZ to rotate it like this, and then G shift Z to bring it somewhere like here. Let's focus on it, and GZ to bring it down like this. And we have to remove these flowers from here. So because I want to for the photo shoot part, I want to move this bed quite a lot. So for now it's okay, I'm not going to remove any flower. So later if I needed to, I will do so. So let's look at it from the top view and find a better place for this bed. But imagine that I want to remove these flowers now. Let's bring it down. And actually I don't have to remove any flowers, but you know how to do that. We have to go inside, you have to select the flower plane, and then here is the flowers plane, and then inside this vertex group, I have to select the vertex here, vertex group here, and then go inside weight paint mode. Yeah, we have to press A first to select all the vertices, and then hold down the control key and paint wherever we don't want any flowers, because when I'm holding the control key I'm going to paint with the weight of 0. So it's basically the same thing. I can turn it to 0 and then paint here, so we don't have any flowers here. Let's remove this one too. Yeah, perfect. So now I can go back to object mode, and everything is fine in here. I want to make this bed bigger, so select the bed and then S to make it a little bit bigger. And move it to the place. Yeah, perfect. So Ctrl S to save. Alright, now I want to make a beach umbrella. So Shift A, mesh, and a UV sphere. Then GZ to bring it up, and let's switch to solid mode. And I hit tab to go inside edit mode, and I want to turn on the X-ray mode, and then I select all these vertices in here and X vertices to remove them. Let's turn off the X-ray mode and then select all the faces and Alt E, extrude faces along normals, just like that. And then I want to select every other face in this loop, because this sphere is a default one and it has 32 faces, so I can select 16 of them this way. Alright, and then Alt E and extrude faces along normals again, like that. And let's give it a subdivision surface modifier of level 3, and right click, shade smooth. Let's give it a material, new material. Let's switch to material mode again, and I want it to be white. And now let's select these loops, hold down Alt and Shift and click, just like that. Really easy. I am sure that there must be an easier way to select these, but I'm just doing it like that because it's faster. It takes time to find out how to do that. Alright, so now I click on this plus button and new, and give it a kind of a pink material and a sign. Alright, now Shift A, mesh, and I want a cylinder, but I want the cylinder to be right here. So bring the 3D cursor there, exactly in the middle, and then Shift A, mesh, and I bring a cylinder, and I want to make it so small and so tall, and GZ to bring it down, S Shift Z to scale it down in every direction except Z. And let's select this face. Let's hit the backslash key to solo it, and then select this face and the other face at the top. Shift click I to insert these faces, and then Ctrl R, give it a loop cut and bring it over here at the top, and add another one here at the bottom, and then Ctrl 2 to give it a subdivision surface modifier, and right click, shade smooth, and backslash to bring everything else back. Alright, let's give this one a material, and I want it to be kind of a grayish with metallic value. Alright, now I can join them together. So select this one. They have different subdivision surface modifier. It doesn't matter. I can make this one 3 as well and select both of them and Control J to join them together, and then bring the umbrella to the place. Let's make it smaller. All right, if you decide to only make the umbrella part smaller, we can go inside edit mode, and inside face mode, while we hover our mouse over it, I'm gonna hit L on my keyboard to select everything and make it smaller, and maybe bring it down. And I want to select these vertices, so turn on the X-ray mode and select these vertices and bring them down. Alright, so we have the umbrella now, but depending on the camera angle and the render that I want to make, I'm going to scale it to find the best position and scale for it later. So for now it's okay, it's gonna do the job perfectly. So Ctrl S to save the project. Alright, for the water inside, I'm going to choose the ground, and then inside edit mode, I'm going to face mode, and I'm going to select all these faces here, and then shift it to make a copy, and right click to release it there, and then P for separate menu, and I choose selection. Now I'm going to object mode and select this one and rename it to water, and then I press tab to go back inside edit mode, and I'm going to select this loop, and then I press F and I to insert it in a little bit. Let's check the corners. It's perfect. All right, now it needs some other materials, so I'm going to material tab and I remove all these materials that it has, and then I want to use Blender Kit to download the materials. So inside Blender Kit and in material, all materials are free in Blender Kit. So I'm going to type water, and I'm going to choose this one. Just drag and drop it. It's getting downloaded there. It's gonna take a few seconds, and there it is. All right, now I'm going to close this sidebar menu, and I can open up this panel and change it to shader, and I can decrease the level of reflection or whatever I want. I have to come back here and adjust all these parameters during the render time. Now I'm going to shift right click here to bring the 3D cursor over here, and then shift a mesh and I bring a terrace, and then I open up this panel, and I want some increase in minor radius to be something looking like this, and then I think 32 is enough for major segments, and then let's close this panel and then Ctrl+2 to give it a subdivision surface modifier, and then looking at it from the top view and bring it over here and make it smaller. Alright, let's give it a material. So I click on new while I'm in this material tab, and I want it to be kind of a pink color, and no roughness, maybe a little bit of roughness, and I want transmission for this so we can see through it. All right, let's put it inside the water like that, and then Ctrl S to save the work for now. All right, before moving on, I want to check the render look. For now, I'm going to switch to render preview here, and it's so dark. Obviously, I'm going to pick the sunlight and turn the strength up to 2 and exposure to like 2 as well, because I want a sunny bright day. So let's go to Word and change this surface color to a light blue for the sky. And I don't want to even hide it from the viewport in render because it's gonna be my sky. So something like this is really good for now. And I want to go to render settings, and here under color management I'm going to change the view to standard so I get more vivid cartoonish looking colors. And then I want to change the look to medium high contrast, and I guess the sun is too bright, so the exposure 1.5 is probably better. And for this reflection that I don't really like here, I'm going to click on water, and then in modifiers tab I'm going to add a solidify modifier, and the effect is more beautiful now. Alright, so let's check it from different angles. Alright, it's good for now, and we can always change them later. So let's switch to material preview, and let's press Shift plus C to send the 3D cursor back to its original place, and Ctrl S to save it. Alright, before moving on and start with the character, I want to make some changes here in the environment. So let's switch to render preview, and based on this look I decided to have a more dense grass. So I click on it, and then in particles I'm going to turn this number from 20,000 to 30,000. I mean, everything is so flexible in here now. You can just jump and change the color of umbrella. You can jump and turn off the reflection on these walls. Or one more thing is that if you look, all these flowers in here are straight up. I want them to bend in different angles, so I'm going to select the flower plane, and then here, while the advance is on, here in particles tab, I can turn this randomized number up so they're bending toward different directions. Alright, before I move on and start making the character, I want to make a couple of more things here. One is those stairs that using beside the swimming pool to get in and out of the pool, and a bottle of drink maybe. So for the stairs I'm going to press Shift A and curve, and I bring a Bezier curve, and then tap to go inside edit mode. And while all the vertices of this Bezier curve is selected, I'm going to press X vertices. So as a result I am getting these tools here. So I'm going to look at it from the side view, and then I pick this curve pen and click and drag in here. I can hold down the space and move, and then one more in here maybe. Yeah, that's so low. This is better now. Alright, so imagine this is here. Alright, now if I go back to object mode and then in data tab, and here I can go to geometry, and while the round is selected I increase this depth number, something like that, maybe to 2. Let's switch to solid mode so we can see it better. Alright, this is good now, and I'm going to right click and convert it to a mesh, so I have access to its faces now. So alt click here, and then F to close the hole, and then Control B to add a bevel like this, and then I can add a subdivision surface modifier as well, and right click and shade smooth. Alright, I need to make a copy and bring it over here in Y direction, and then I'm going to shift right click here and Shift A, mesh, and I bring a cylinder. Obviously that is too many vertices. 12 is more than enough for me. and then I'm scaling it down, and RX90, and then SY to do so, and then Control 2 to give it a subdivision surface modifier. It needs a few cuts here, or I can only select these edges and this one and Control B and give it a bevel. And it's even better if you go back to object mode and Control A to bring up the apply menu and apply all transforms, and then select both of these loops and then Control B to give it a bevel. Sorry. Perfect. But it doesn't really matter, so we're kind of just wasting time here because we are not going to see them. So right click, set origin to geometry, scale it down, and then bring it over here. GX, put it right in the middle, and then Shift Z and Shift R to repeat it one more time. So this one has a subdivision surface modifier of level 2, and this one has subdivision surface modifier of level 2. So we were not wasting times. We needed this for the subdivision surface. So I'm going to select all of them and then Control J to join them together, and we can rename it to stairs, or I don't know, whatever it makes sense, and then G to bring it to the side of the pool. Now I want it to be here because I'm gonna get a nice scene probably, but maybe I have to move it later, who knows. And I think it's better if it be a smaller like this, and then GX to bring it out like this. And I need some material now, so I click on new, and I want it to be kind of a grayish material with full metallic value. Alright, now I want to make the bottle of beer, so Shift C to send the 3D cursor back to its original place, and then Shift A, image, and I want to bring an image reference that I have on my desktop, and then Alt R to zero out the rotation values, and then RX90. Let's bring it up and push it back a little bit like that. And while the image is selected, I want to click on this data tab and activate the opacity checkbox and bring the opacity value down so I can see better and draw on it easier. And then I want to select the light and hide it from the viewport. And I also can select the image reference and click here and activate this mouse cursor and deselect it here so I cannot accidentally select and move the image reference. Alright, now let's press Shift A, curve, and I bring a Bezier curve, and inside edit mode I want to delete all the vertices, and then with this curve pen selected I want to see the z-axis as well, so click here and activate the z-axis, and then I want to click here and draw. I can hold down the space. I'm trying to draw on the outline of the beer bottle. Like that. And then one click here to have a long straight line. We don't have to be so precise here because we are not going to get a very close render of this bottle, like most probably I mean. And hold down the space and move it. Click here, and one last point in here. Alright, now let's go back to object mode, I guess, and then convert it to a mesh. Right click, convert to mesh, and go back to edit mode. And you can see that we have a lot of vertices here that we don't need. So let's hit Ctrl Z a couple of times, and then before converting it to a mesh. Here we can turn down in data tab, we can turn down the resolution. Be careful that the curve must be selected already. So bring the resolution number down to something like 3. You have to try, and if it's a good number, keep it that way. If not, we have to change it. So now right click, convert to mesh, and inside edit mode you can see that we have a lot less vertices, which is much better. So let's select all the edges or vertices and then click on this spin tool, and we have to rotate it here. But before that, let's make sure that this point is right at the 0 value of x and y axis. So select it, hit the end button, and then under item, zero out the x value. And now I can select all the edges, and with the spin tool I'm going to give it a 360 degrees of spin. Perfect. Now I can go back to object mode and Ctrl 2 to give it a subdivision surface modifier, and right click and shade smooth. Let's apply a solidify modifier, add a modifier, generate a solidify, and change this thickness value to something like this, a little bit more. Yeah, perfect. Okay, it's better if the solidify modifier be at the top and then subdivision surface modifier. And let's give it a material, click on material, new. But before giving a material, let's make the liquid inside. So I go inside edit mode, and let's turn off the solidify modifier for now so I can see the faces. I'm going to add a loop cut here, and then turn on the X-ray mode, and I'm going to select these faces here and then shift D to make a copy, right click to release it there, and then P for separation menu selection, so it's a different object now that I can select independently, and then hit backslash to solo it out, turn off the X-ray, and select this edge loop, F to close the hole, and I to insert it in. And I can even add another cut here, and then backslash to bring it back. I can select all the faces and scale them down a little bit to go inside of the beer, like that. So select the beer and bring the modifier back on, and then select the liquid inside and bring its modifier back on as well, and turn off the, let's right click, set origin to geometry, and scale it down a little bit more. So this is the liquid inside, and now I can select the bottle, go to material tab, click on new, and give it a kind of a green material or whatever color you like. You can leave it just a glass material, transparent glass, and I want transmission for it. Let's switch to material preview, and then I can select, let's select the reference image, here it is, and remove it, we don't need it no more. And I want to select the liquid inside, click on new and make it kind of a yellowish color, lighter probably, with some transmission as well. And if I bring the sunlight back, where is it? Yeah, so we can see the render preview as well, and we can tweak it later and make it much better during the render time. So let's go back to solid mode and join them together, this and the bottle. Ctrl J to join them. So yeah, let's turn off the X-ray and bring it and put it somewhere for later. Right click, set origin to geometry, and scale it way down and put it somewhere that you want. So I guess we are done with the environment, and now let's move on and do the character part. Ctrl S to save. if I look at it from different view, you can see that we can get beautiful renders in here. Let's see the material, and let's see the render preview. It's just perfect. Yeah, we can twerk these flowers later and bend them toward the camera, and we can do all sorts of things. All right, okay, moving on to the character part of this tutorial. I want to make a new scene here first, and I want to build that character inside that new scene. So we're gonna get two different scenes inside one project. So here there's a bottom. This is the scene that we have everything inside it now. If I click here and choose new, and in this scene I can name it character, and I can switch between the scenes here. I can go back to previous one and rename it to environment. Alright, now if I go back to character, I can start and make my character here and then copy everything and bring to the environment scene. I'm doing this because I want a clean environment, that there is nothing in it, with a clean outliner and everything. Now come to this amazing website that I found. The address is iThappystudios.com. Shout out to them for this amazing collection that they made, and it's free for download. And you can just come here to their website, iThappy Studios, and there is a link in it, Creative Characters Free. Find it and click on Add to Cart, and here is $0 to pay. It's free, check out, and you have to put your email address here and then agree to terms and conditions and get free download. And here after the checkout you get different kind of files to download. I'm going to download the Blender file, and it is here in my download list. Here is the file that I downloaded from iThappy Studios. I'm going to click on this mesh and then Ctrl+C to copy it, and I go back to my pool scene. Here is the environment that we made, and here is the scene to make the character. Now I'm going to hit Ctrl+V, and it's here, and then Alt+C to turn on the X-ray mode, and I select this rig and delete it because I want to use Rigify to build our own rig, and then Alt+C to turn off the X-ray mode, and then Ctrl+S to save. Alright, now let's select the character, and then let's go inside edit mode to take a look at its topology, which is really amazing. It's nice, clean, and very low poly. Exactly what we need, but I want more faces in here. So, and I want it to be a smoother. I'm going to give it a subdivision surface of level 1, and you can see we have some modifiers in here that we don't need, so we can remove them. And then I want to apply this modifier, the subdivision surface modifier, and then you can see I get a better topology because I want the shape to bend in here easily and other stuff. So this is what I prefer to have, but I want to make the ears and the nose. So let's go to face mode and hover the mouse over the ears and click L and hit L on the keyboard, and hover your mouse over the nose and the other ear, and then X faces to get rid of them. And let's go back to object mode and rename it to base mesh. And I want even a smoother topology, so I'm going to give it a subdivision surface modifier of level 1 this time. Alright, so now everything is perfect. Let's start and make the accessories for it. So Ctrl+S to save. First I'm going to make the Hawaiian shirt, so let's press tab to go inside edit mode and Alt+C to turn on the X-ray, and I want to select some faces in here that I want to use for the shirt. I'm going to switch to select circle, turn off the X-ray mode, and deselect some of these faces in here. Alright, and now let's turn the X-ray mode back on and hold down the shift key and select some more faces just like that, and we have to be symmetrical in here. Let's turn off the X-ray mode and select these faces as well. And I think I got everything that I need in here. Now I'm going to hit Shift D to make a copy and right click to release it right there, and then P selection to separate it. And then let's go back to object mode and select the shirt. I'm going to rename it to shirt. And then inside edit mode, select all the faces. If you press S, it's gonna scale this way, which we don't want. So Ctrl Z and Alt S and scale it this way. Alt S and slightly scale it up like this. The way it works is that it needs to be so tight. I think this is good now. And now I want to remove some of these faces at the front, so I'm going to select them. Let's check it out. Deselect these and then X faces. Now let's go to edge mode and alt click on this edge and then E to extrude it up in Z direction, and E again to extrude, and S to scale the extrusion, and then E, Z to bring another extrude down like this, and then S to scale it up a little bit. We can bring it even lower, and we can select these two and scale them down like this. We don't want no intersection in here. And then let's look at it from different angles. Let's give it a solidify modifier, generate solidify, and let's make it positive, and 0.001 is a good number, and let's bring the solidifier to the first place. And I want it to be thicker, so 0.005 or 0.008 is better. Yeah. All right. So now we have the shirt, and check it from different angles. I think this is so thick now. I want to change it to 0.005, and then let's turn off the solidify modifier for now. This is a subdivision surface modifier, and this is a solidify. And let's select this edge loop and turn on the proportional editing and GZ and bring it down. Scroll the mouse wheel to adjust the area of the effect, and then S to scale it up a little bit like that, so the short can go under it. Let's go back to object mode and check it. Let's bring the solidify modifier back on, and this is perfect. So Ctrl S to save. For the swimsuit, basically we have to go through the same process. Select the base mesh and solo it out, and then inside edit mode, turn on the X-ray and change to select box tool, and in face mode I'm going to drag a box here and select some faces that I'm going to use for the short like that. Turn off the X-ray and let's get the select circle, hold down the shift key and select these faces as well. Alright, shift D to make a copy and right click to release it there, P selection. Let's go back to object mode and select the short and rename it to short. And now I can go back to edit mode and select all the faces and Alt S. Let's turn off the proportional editing, Alt S, and scale it up a little bit like this. And now in edge mode, you know, I want to make some changes in here, but whatever changes I apply to this side, I want to be applied to this side as well. So turn on the X-ray and W again to get the box selection tool and select these faces, and then X faces. And now I can go back to object mode and apply a mirror modifier and bring it to the first place. And now I can go back to edit mode and select this edge loop and SZ0 to zero it out, and turn on the proportional editing, S to scale it up like this. And now I can go back to object mode, and this time I'm going to add a solidify modifier and bring it to the first place, actually the second place. Yeah, so we have a stack of modifiers in here that are working perfectly together. So in solidify mode, I think this is good now, so let's make it positive. Not really. And everything is fine in here. I can even select this and scale this part up a little bit more, which is not look really good, so I'm going to scale it back down, and I can apply the mirror modifier now. And here is the short, so backslash to bring the shirt back on, and I guess we are done with the short as well, so Ctrl S to save. For the bucket hat, I'm going to select the base mesh again, and inside edit mode I'm going to turn on the X-ray and face mode by hitting the 3. Select some of these faces in here. I'm going to select this much, and then Shift D, right click, P, selection, and I go back to object mode, and I can select the hat now and rename it to hat. And now if I go back to edit mode, I can select all the faces and Alt S to scale them up like this, so they are not intersecting with the body anymore. And now I want to go to edge mode and select this edge loop, and then E for extrusion and S to scale the extrusion up like this, and then GZ to bring it down like this. Now I want to select this edge loop. We cannot see it. If I turn off the subdivision surface modifier, you can see it. And then scale this one up as well. And let's add a loop cut here. Now I can add a solidify modifier and bring it to the first place. And let's make it positive. Alright, one thing that I want to do is that I want to increase the level of subdivision surface here to 2, because I am copying these faces from the body, from the base mesh. It bringing all the modifiers along with itself. So the base mesh has the subdivision surface of level 1, but I want for the accessories to be on level 2. So let's do the same for the shirt and for the swimsuit as well. So increase it to 2 for all of them. Now if I look at it from the side view, let's select the hat, and I want some rotation here, but I have to right click, set origin, and origin to geometry first, and then rotate it a little bit like this and move it to a better place, and then turn off the X-ray mode. It already starts to be looking cute. I like it already, so Ctrl S to save it. For the facial features, Shift right click here to bring the 3D cursor there, and then Shift A mesh, and I bring a cube and scale it down quite a lot, and then Shift C to send the 3D cursor back to its original place, and then N, and under item I want to zero out the X value in here so it is right at the center, and then Ctrl 2 to give it a subdivision surface modifier. Let's look at it from the side view and turn on the X-ray, and I want to select these vertices and move them like this, or maybe I want to select all of these and SX, let's scale it down, and Ctrl R and add a cut in here. And now I can go back to X-ray mode and select these vertices and bring them here, and just try to modify it and find a good shape that works the best for you. And now let's select it and bring the subdivision level up, and then right click, shade smooth. And now shift right click here and shift a mesh, and I bring a UV sphere and scale it down a lot, and shift C to send the 3D cursor back, and then SX and scale it down like this, trying to make the earth, and then RZ, rotate it in Z axis, and I can give it a subdivision surface modifier as well. And I want to scale it down in its own Y axis, so S Y Y, you have to press Y 2 times, S Y Y, and scale it down and rotate it, S X X. Alright, this is good, I believe, for now. Now let's add a mirror modifier and bring it to it can be the second place, doesn't matter, and click on eyedropper and click on the body, and we have a couple of errors now. Control S to save. For the sunglasses, I'm going to hit shift A mesh and I bring a cylinder, and 32 is quite a lot. I'm going to make it like 10, and then SZ to scale it down like this. I actually want to select this face, and then Control I to invert the selection, and then remove all the faces except this one, and then RX90 to rotate it 90 degrees and scale it down and put it to the place like this, and then scale it down more, looking at it from different angles. Let's hide the hat and find the best location for it, and then Control 2 to give it a subdivision surface modifier, and then select the face and I to insert it in, and then X to remove the face. Let's look at it from the top view, and I want a little bit of rotation in here like this. Now let's select this edge and then E to extrude out, and then G to bring it over here, and then E to extrude even more like this. Let's add a cut in here, and then GX to bring it out. I can select these two and scale them down in Z direction, and I can bring them over here and scale this one down as well. Now let's add a mirror modifier, so add modifier, generate, and mirror, and select the face, and let's bring it to the first place, and then enable this clipping, because I want to select this edge, and with the clipping enabled I can extrude it, and these two gonna attach to each other, and I can scale it down, or I can select the whole thing and then GX and bring it further from each other, and then select this edge while the clipping is on and checked. I can extrude it out and scale it down like this. Now let's select this edge and then GX and bring it inside like that, and then I can right click and shade smooth it, or I can just go to edit mode and select all the faces and extrude them along normals. I have to do something first. So let me apply the mirror modifier, and then I want to apply all transforms, and then go back to edit mode and Alt E and extrude faces along normals like that. It gives me a nice effect. I can add a loop cut here all around the glasses, and I can add another loop cut here and another one here in the middle. Now for the glasses inside, I'm going to turn off the subdivision surface modifier and select this edge loop, and then shift it to make a copy, and right click to release it, and P selection. So if I go back to object mode, I can select this one and rename it to glass, and then inside edit mode, select all the edges and then F to close it. I can solo it out and then select this face and extrude it out like this. Let's bring the subdivision surface modifier back on and select these two faces and insert them in, and I can add a loop cut here, and then right click, shade smooth, and then alt H // to bring everything else back, and then select the glasses and turn the modifier back on. Now select this glass, add modifier, generate mirror, and bring it to the first place, and it is in the right place already. So I can select the nose and bring it up, or I can select the glasses and bring it down. Now we are done with the glasses. Now I want to make the lips. So select the base mesh, and inside edit mode, I'm going to face mode and hit W one time to switch to circle selection, and I'm going to select these faces in here, not these two, only these 8 faces, and then I to insert them in like this, and I to insert them in one more time, and I can press SZ and scale it down in Z direction only, and alt click here to select this faces loop, and then E to extrude them out like this, and I can add a cut here if it's necessary. Let me try. It's not bad, but I like it more without the cut, so Ctrl Z and check it out. It's alright. And now let's select the ears, and I'm going to edit mode, and in vertex mode I'm going to select these 2 vertices, or more or less, doesn't really matter. Select a few vertices in here and then turn on proportional editing and G, and scroll the mouse wheel and X, and let it go inside a little bit like this. And because it is using a mirror modifier, the same effect is applied to the other side. And I want to select the nose, looking at it from the front view, and select, let's turn on the X-ray mode and select these vertices, and SX to scale them up, and select these vertices, and SX to scale them in like that. And I want to select these vertices at the front of the nose and scale them down. Let's turn off the proportional editing and do it again. GZ to bring it up a bit. I think it is better now. Alright, we are done with the facial features, but I have to bring this ear up. GZ to bring it up, and it is alright. So Ctrl S to save. Alright, before moving on and start making the materials for these clothes, I want to do some final tweaks in here. For example, there's a lot of space between the mouse and the nose, I believe. So I'm going to select the nose, and then I hold down the shift key and select all these things including the ears, and then GZ to bring them down like this. So here is before, here is after, and I think this is better now. Next, I'm going to choose the hat and turn on the X-ray mode, and then I want to rotate it some more, and then reposition it like that. Next, the shirt. I want it to be thicker a little bit, so open the solidify modifier and then increase it to 0.008 maybe. So here is before, here is after, and I think this is visually more pleasing now. Next, I'm going to select the short, and in face mode I'm going to select all the faces and then Alt S and scale it a little bit so there'll be no intersection with the body. And let's go back to object mode and check everything else and see if it's alright. I think this is good for now, so save it for now. You can definitely add any sort of details that you want here on these clothes, but I just want to add a few bottoms over here on this shirt. So I'm going to click on this shirt and then tap to go in edit mode, and I have to turn off this solidify modifier for now so I can see the faces and edges better, and then Control R and add a loop cut here, and then Control click here to deselect some of these edges, and I want to deselect this one too and add this edge to the selection, and then Shift D to make a copy, right click to release it there, P selection. And now if I go back to object mode, I can select this and rename it to path because I want to use it as a path to distribute the bottoms on, and I can go back to shirt and alt click here to select the edge that we just added, and then right click and dissolve edges because we don't need that no more. So here is the path that we want to use, and now I need a bottom. There is probably 1,000 different ways to make a bottom, but I want to make the most simple one. So I get a cylinder and decrease the number of vertices down to something like 12. That's more than enough. And then SZ to scale it down like this, and GY to bring it over here and scale it down quite a lot. Dot on my numpad to focus on it, and then I go inside edit mode. And I want to give some bevels to it, but before that I have to apply all transforms, and now I can select this edge loop, add shift to it, and then click on this one and Control B and scroll the mouse wheel, and then Control 2 to give it a subdivision surface modifier. And I want to array this, so add modifier, generate array. And here in array modifier, if I change it in shape from line to curve, I can introduce a curve here, but that path is not a curve yet. This is an edge, so select it, right click and convert to curve. Now I can go back to the bottoms and change the shape from line to curve, and then introduce this pass to it. You can see the sign is different over here, so click on it, but you can see it's not on the shirt. That has a couple of reasons, so let's hit Ctrl Z a couple of times. And one is we have to right click here, set origin, and bring the origin to geometry. And I want to do the same thing for the path. I'm not sure if it's necessary, but I'm going to do that anyway. So right click, set origin, origin to geometry. Now if I go back to the bottoms and pick curve and introduce the path to it, you can see the bottoms are right there. I can right click and shade smooth the bottoms and scale them down quite a lot. Let's increase the number here to something like 8 and scale them down even more, and then rotate it. Let's look at it from different angles and find the best rotation value. Alright, here is the bottom, so I can select the path and hide it for now, and Control S to save. It's time to give some material to these clothes, so let's switch to material preview mode, and you can see that we have a problem here. The body material, we had to remove it at the first place, so that way it wouldn't have transferred to all other things in here. So now I have to select them one by one and remove the material that they have, which is the skin tone. And the skin tone, I want to change it as well. So let's remove it as well and give it a new material and convert it to something like it got already tanned a little bit. Something like that. We have to probably change it later. I'm going to rename it skin tone. And then the shirt, I want it to be dark green, like really green color, and the swimsuit to orange. Not so saturated, and I think this is alright now. And the hat, I want it to be yellow. And the sunglasses frame, I'm going to give it the same material, the same color as this orange. So I can just remove it and choose the orange that I already have in here. Too many colors in here. And for these, I'm going to give it a new one, and I want to make it black. Not so black, something like this. And then I'm going to select the nose, shift click on the ears, and then shift click on the body, and then Control L and link materials. And this is it. And next I'm going to paint something on this shirt. Control S to save. In order to be able to paint on any object in Blender, like any other 3D softwares, we have to UV unwrap the object first. So let's UV unwrap the shirt. I go to edit mode, and the solidify modifier is still off. We have to turn it on again. And here we have to select some edge loops that are good for the shirt to be cutted from there. So I'm going to alt click here to choose this loop and add shift to it and alt click here. And I don't want to UV unwrap this, so let's deselect these edges here up to there, and then alt shift on this edge and then remove these edges also, so they must be kind of a symmetry, and then alt shift click on this one, and I guess that's that. These are the edges that I want to use to UV unwrap. So right click and mark seam. Now if I go to UV editing workspace, I can select all the faces and then U and UV unwrap with minimum scratch. So this is it, and I think I can UV unwrap this one too. So I'm going to select this edge, alt click here, and maybe the one above it, alt click here. Yeah, this is the edge that I want, and right click and mark seam and select all the faces again, UV unwrap with minimum scratch. That's that. All right, let's go back to layout and select the short and go to edit mode, turn off the solidify modifier, and I'm going to alt click on this edge and alt shift click on this one, or maybe alt shift click on this one and alt shift on this one, and then right click, mark seam, and then I go to UV editing, select all the faces, so 3 to go to face mode, and then A to select them all, U and UV unwrap with minimum scratch. And I can even do more, like, you know, I can select this one as well and right click, mark seam, and select them all, U and UV unwrap, like that. So now if I go back to layout, these two are ready to paint on. Alright, now that we are ready to paint on this Hawaiian shirt, I'm going to select it, and then you can see the solidify modifier is still off. I can turn it back on, and I'm going to expand this panel here, and I'm going to zoom out, and select this principal BSDF node and shift it to make a copy of it. And then you must have the Node Wrangler add-on activated, so make sure you activate the add-on, and as a result you can control right click and drag and cut this noodle right there, and then shift A and bring up a mix shader and put it right here. The base color, which is this green color, goes to shader 1, and the second one, which is the paint that we're gonna texture paint, going to second one. And then this base image comes out and we bring an image texture color, and we can connect this shader back to surface, and then click on this new button and name it. I'm going to name it shirt decals, and as a habit I want 4K here, and click on this color and bring the alpha value all the way down to 0, so we get the base color there. And then everything else is alright. You can click on new image, and here is the image. And next I'm going to connect this alpha to this factor in mix shader, and now with this node selected I can go to texture paint, and you cannot see the shirt. That's because of the solid mode preview. If you go to material preview, you're gonna see the shirt, and we have to import an image here to paint on. Now we can paint on it, so it doesn't really matter. You can hit the F key and make it smaller and paint on the shirt, but I want to paint a picture here, so I'm going to, here in tools, I'm going to open up the texture and click on this new button and click on this and open, and I have this flower that I downloaded from internet, so I'm going to double click on it, and it must be a PNG picture. So if it has a white background or anything, any kind of background, you have to remove the background. You can use AI tools, you can use softwares like Photoshop to remove the background and import a PNG file here. So we are in this texture panel, we go back to tools, and here is the flower, and I change it from view plane to a stencil, and then I click. You can see that it's so distorted. I'm going to click on image aspect, so it's not distorted anymore. And then here I can hold down Control key and right click to rotate it, shift right click to make it smaller or bigger, and right click only to move it around. So I'm going to hold down the shift and right click and drag to make it smaller, and then here I have to paint with white. So if I hit X on my keyboard, this color is gonna be switched, and now you can see it's pure white color. And now I can paint on this flower, and you can see it's right on the shirt, and I have to paint a few more. You can make it different sizes. Let me make it a little bigger and paint with white on it. Right click, drag, and it's better if we always paint from a direct angle, just like that. Alright, I think this is good, and in order to get rid of this flower, let me paint the last one. You can just click here on this bottom and it is gone, and we have left with the flowers here. One really good thing about this kind of working is that I can always change the base color here. So if I change it to blue, you can see that the flowers are going to stay there. So I want it to be green. And one really important thing is that always after painting, we have to save this image that we just painted. This is the image that we painted on the UV. So whenever it needs a save, there is a star in here. So image, save as, and save it where you have saved the project file. So save it as a PNG here and save as image, and you can see the star is gone. And next time we open up the Blender, we're gonna still have this painting on this shirt. So that is for the shirt, and now let's do the same thing for the short. Control S to save. Alright, because of the solidify modifier of the shirt, we cannot see the bottoms anymore. So let's hit Alt H to reveal the path again. Let's switch to solid mode and select the path. And then we can turn the X-ray mode off. And then we can just move the path out quite a bit so the bottoms are out again somewhere that we can actually see them. Let's check it from different angles. Yes, it's alright now. And now I can select the path again and edge to hide it. Alright, for the short, let's switch to material preview, select the short, and then open up this panel. And if it is not shader editor for you, you can click here and change it to shader editor. I'm going to do basically the same process. So select the BSDF node and then Shift D, make a copy, Control right click drag, bring a mix shader. The base layer goes to first one, the second one goes to second one, I mean the decals, and then shader to surface, and bring a noodle out from base color, image texture. Click on new, name it, and define the resolution. I want 4K. Click on color and bring the alpha value all the way down to 0, new image, and connect this alpha to factor. Now we can go to texture paint, and here in tools I'm going to click on under texture, I'm going to click on this new and click here. It jumps to texture, open, and I choose this Lagos logo, and let's go back to tool, and down here I change it from view plane to a stencil and image aspect, shift right click, let's get a better front view here, and shift right click drag to make it smaller, find a good position for it, and paint over it with pure white color, just like that. And click on this to get rid of the stencil, and then image, save as, to on desktop to save the paint we just made. So next time we open up the Blender, we are not going to lose it. So let's go back to layout mode, and let's close this panel and check everything. Alright, it's okay. Control S to save. Alright, to make this character even more beautiful, I have to make a few changes. So let's select the character and then edit mode, Shift Q to turn off the subdivision surface modifier so I can select some faces more easily in here, and be careful to not miss any faces inside the mouth. And then Alt Shift click on this edge to select that loop, and with all the faces of the lips selected, I go to Material tab and click on this plus button, new, and rename it to lips. And I want kind of a pink color, just like that, and then assign, and that is so pink, so make it less saturated and bring the modifier back on. I still don't like the color of the lips, and it's better now. Alright, next in edit mode, I'm going to select these 4 faces in here, and then to insert them, you need to have the curve tool add-on activated. So if you don't have that, go to preferences and under extension look for curve tools and activate this add-on. So with these edges selected, these 8 edges, I'm going to press N, and then under edit and under loop tools I'm going to click on circle to make a circle there, and then close the side menu and select these faces and insert them in a bit. Obviously this is too big, so Ctrl Z and then select these edges and scale them, and then select the faces and extrude them in a little bit. Maybe a little bit more, so GY to move it inside. Alright, and next I want to select the bottoms and give them a white material, kind of a light gray material. And I think this is it. Now we can move on and rig our character. So Ctrl S to save. Alright, before rigging the character, I want to add one single flower here because I missed it. So I'm going to click on the shirt, and then I can totally do that by going to texture paint and new and open. Bring the flower back and in tool, change it to Sensitive image aspect and get a nice view of this part. Shift right click drag, bring it over here and paint it with white and remove that image and save. So I can go back to layout and everything is alright. In order to rig this character, I want to use a very useful add-on called Rigify. So open up the preferences and under add-ons, look for Rigify and make sure you have this add-on installed on your machine. Next, I'm going to click on this base mesh, which is the character body, and then backslash to solo it out, and I get a very clear viewport here. And then I switch to solid mode, and as a result of Rigify add-on, I can hit Shift A and then armature, Rigify meta rigs, and I bring a human armature, which is basically a collection of bones. So if I turn on the X-ray mode, you can see that we have a bunch of bones here. I don't need these facial bones, so I go inside edit mode, and this big bone is the head bone, and inside the head bone there's a little bone here that I can select, and then select similar, which is the Shift G as a shortcut, and then children to select all those facial bones, and X bones to get rid of them. Now I can scale it down, and I have to put every bone in position here. So let's go back to edit mode, select this one, G to bring it over here, looking at it from the side view, and it has to be kind of in center here, so somewhere like this is perfect. This one goes where the neck starts, and this one goes to the middle of the neck here, and these two for the arms and the legs you have to activate this symmetry bottom here, so whatever changes I make to this side, it applies to the other side as well. So Ctrl Z and then G to bring it back a bit, and this one must be here, and these bones comes here. So if I look at it from the top view, you can see they are not in a perfect straight line. This one, the elbow bone, must be a little bit toward back, and I can select all these and scale them and bring them over here, and I have to put each one of them right at the center of each finger. So I'm going to activate this snap tool and switch to volume here and put it at center, so it's going to snap to the center of the mesh. These are so important because they define the direction of the control handles here. So they have to be like in a straight line. All right, I think this is good and we can adjust it later. So for the knees, let's turn off the snap mode. For ankles, this must come here, this one comes here. Look at it from the back and bring them over here. I can deselect this one and bring all of these here right at the center. And you can see it is like a curve here, so they must not be in a straight line. So something like this. And this one goes inside GY and select these two, and because the symmetry is on, bring it over here to the hips and a little bit back. All right, that's outside, so I bring it back in, and then I go back to object mode, Control A, apply all transforms, and Control S to save. Before generating the rig itself, I want to adjust a parameter called bone roll. It tells the rig which way we want to bend fingers. So with the bone selected, I come to this data tab, and under viewport display, I'm going to turn on this checkbox axis so I can see the axis of each bone. Now if I go inside edit mode, you can see that most of these bones are having the x-axis on the right and the z-axis going down, which is the right position because the fingers in here are bending around the x-axis. So if you had to rotate one of these bones, just select it, hit N on your keyboard, and under item you can adjust this roll parameter and it's gonna rotate around the y-axis. So Control Z and then close this panel, and you can just select the right bones, which is almost all of them, but except these are in the thumb, having the X going up and the Z going to the right side, which is not right. So there's a method. I don't have to rotate each one of them individually, so I'm going to select this one, shift and select this one too, I guess, and lastly select one of the right bones here, and then come to armature menu, and under bone roll and recalculate roll, the keyboard shortcut is shift N, and then pick the active bone, shift N and active bone. So these are now right, they're having a correct rotation, Z going down and X to the right side. All right, so these effects are getting mirrored to the other side, so these bone rolls are right now. But there's one more thing that we have to do here, but only in pose mode. So if I get into pose mode, I get different options here. So if I go back to edit mode, you can see there is nothing that I'm looking for. If I go back to pose mode, under Rigify type, we have to select every first bone on fingers and change this bend rotation to X manual. Just select them one by one and make it X manual. and it's not getting mirrored, so we have to do the same thing for this side. And you can see that there is not such an option existing in other bones, only the first bone of each finger. Make it X manual. Alright, now I can go back to this data tab and deactivate this checkbox of axis. Alright, let's go back to object mode and Ctrl S to save. Alright, now let's take a look all around the model and make sure every bone is in the right place. So if I go to edit mode, I want to grab this one right here and GY to pull it back like this, and the position is all right here. And I also want to get this one and move it up like this so it's pointing out of the fingers. You can also go to preferences and under add-ons search for Rigify, and here there's a link that you can download the manual from, and it tells you exactly where to put all these bones, so it's really good to take a look at it. Let's go back to object mode, and here in data tab under Rigify I'm going to click on generate rig, and it just created the rig for me. Now I can select the bones and hide them from the viewport and render because I don't need it anymore, and turn off the X-ray mode, or with the X-ray mode on, doesn't really matter. I have to select the body and then shift click on the rig and then Control P to bring up the set parent to menu, and then with automatic weights click on that, and it takes a couple of seconds to introduce the body to this rig. So now if I select the rig and I go to pose mode, I can select every single one of these pieces right here and move them, rotate them, or scale them. For example, let's grab this one and rotate it around so our character can bend the neck now, or we can move it around. Or right here I can grab this one, for example, and rotate it, and grab this one and do all sort of fun stuff. You can select this one right here and bring it up, and you can also rotate it, and whatever changes you make, you can select them all, hit A on the keyboard to select all, and then under pose menu clear transform all. It brings the character back to its initial pose. So I can also come over here and select these ones, for example the ones that controls the fingers, and then change the transform pivot point from median point to individual origins, and then with S I can scale it inside, or Ctrl Z, I can select all of them and then S to scale it in and do such a thing. If you look closely right here, you can see there is some rig pieces in here inside the arm, the green one in here, and inside the legs also. You can select them, and if you rotate them, you can see that it's rotating, it's getting rotated, and both sides are getting rotated because this X button is activated right here, but it doesn't affect the mesh. It has no impact on the mesh. So let's press Ctrl Z a couple of times and then open up the sidebar menu, and under item, while the green piece of rig is selected, you have to slide FK limb follow all the way to the right, and I believe this one too. So now if I rotate this one, you can see it has an impact on the right hand. For the left hand, I have to choose this one too and do the same thing. So now both of them are supposed to work, but the previous ones are not working anymore. So we have kind of switched between those modes during the process. I can select this one, the green one inside, and then rotate it to give the character the standing position. You can also move it and do whatever you need to do. So now I can go back to previous mode for both arms, and then select all and pose and clear transform all to bring everything back to its beginning. So if by any chance you didn't see this panel right here under item while the rig is selected, there is a possibility that a bug is on your add-on. It's not a bug, but the solution is to come to a scripting, and here you have to change this rig underline UI, I believe, and then run this one and go back to layout, and you should be able to see this menu. Alright, let's save it for now. Alright, now I hit backslash on my keyboard to get out of the solo mode and reveal everything. And I want to make the clothes and the facials to follow the movement of the body. For example, if I select this one, I'm here in pose mode and I press G, obviously and logically they are not following the movement of the head. So let's hit Ctrl Z, but before that let's do some cleanup here in Outliner. So let's go back to object mode, and then I want to select the glass, and here is the frame, I guess. Yeah, and in modifiers tab you can see the glass has a mirror modifier. Bring it to the first place if it's not, and then hover your mouse over it and then Ctrl A to apply. And it has a subdivision surface of level 2. Let's check the frame. Level 2 as well. So shift click on the glass and Ctrl J to join them together, and the name is right. So next, the ears, let's rename it to ears, and nose of course, and hat is alright. And let's check the shirt. So there is also a mirror modifier here on the ears, so bring it to the first place and then Ctrl A to apply. And for the shirt bottoms, I'm going to name it, I guess this is the pass. Let me move it. Yeah, I can remove it. And I want to join the bottoms to the shirt, so I have to apply the solidify modifier of the shirt. So Ctrl A to apply. If I go inside edit mode, you can see that it has already faces in there. And next, there's also an array modifier for the bottom, so bring this one to the first place also and apply that. And then select the bottoms, shift select the shirt, Ctrl J to join them together, and check it if everything is alright. Yeah, alright, perfect. Okay, now I want to make the hat follows the movement of the head. So I turn on the X-ray mode, and for that I need to see the bones collection inside the body. So let's select the rig and come here to this data, and here is a bone collection. Come all the way down to the bottom, and there is a collection named DEF. Turn on the eye for it, and you can see the bones inside. So now if I select the hat and then shift click on the rig to select the rig the second, because we selected the rig the second, we have access to pose mode, and come to pose mode and then click on this head bone and then Ctrl P and bone. And you can see if I select this one, I can move it around and the hat follows. And for the other parts, I come back to object mode and I select the glasses and then shift click on the rig and come to pose mode, click on the head bone, Ctrl P, bone, and it's gonna work for sure. But we don't have to get out of this pose mode and do all the things again. We can just from here, I can click on ears and then click on the head bone and do it like this. And the nose also. Click on that, click on the head bone, Ctrl P, bone. Now if I turn off the X-ray, let's get out of the object mode and turn off the X-ray and go to pose mode. We can just turn the DF collection visibility off and select this one and G to move it around, and you can see it just follows very nicely. I can rotate it and do whatever I want to do. Alright, That's for the head. Let's do for the clothes next. Control S to save. For clothes, it's really easy to do. Let's switch to material preview so we can deal with a better looking guy here. And one really important thing is, if you using any mirror modifier on the shirt, or let's switch to object mode. I don't have any mirror modifier here, or on the short I don't have any mirror modifier here. You have to apply that modifier before doing this. And one really important thing is, this is really big deal, you have to deactivate all the modifiers for the clothes. So select the short and deactivate both solidify and subdivision surface modifiers. And even for the body I can deactivate the subdivision surface modifier. I don't know if it's necessary for the body as well, but I just rather to do it. Next, select the body and then shift click on the clothes that you want to make it follow the body. Here is the shirt. And then you have to switch to weight paint mode. Come to weight paint mode and then click on weight and then choose transfer weight. And here we have a menu, and we have to change a few things in here. Vertex mapping, change it to nearest face interpolated. And then ray radius, we're gonna put it at 5, and source layer by name. That's it. And then add a modifier, deform, and give it the armature modifier. And here in object, select the rig and bring it to the first place. Let's switch to object mode. And now if I select the rig and then come to pose mode, I can select this one for example and move it, and you can see the shirt is just following with it very nicely. Alright, same process for the short. Let's go back to object mode, and we deactivated all the modifiers. Select the body first, shift click on the short, switch to weight paint, weights, transfer weights. The number is already here, it's 5 by name, nearest face interpolated, and just give it the armature modifier. And select the rig and bring it to the first place, and it should work just fine. So select this one and come to pose mode, select it, G, and you can see it just perfectly working. Alright, so I can go back to object mode and then Ctrl S to save. Alright, this cool guy is now ready to jump into the scene. But before that, let's select the shirt and turn on the modifier that we just switched off during the process of weight transfer from the body to the clothes. And then short, and turn the modifiers back on, and also for the body, and bring this armature modifier to the first place. Next, I'm going to select this path for the bottoms. I don't need it anymore, remove it. And then I want to I want to make everything visible now. And here in object mode, I'm going to hit A to select everything and Ctrl C to copy, and then switch to this environment that we just made about an hour ago. Now Ctrl V to bring the character to this beautiful scene, and of course I have to make it a lot smaller, and then G Shift Z to bring it over here. Dot on my numpad to focus. Let's turn off the bones. Here are the bones collection. This one, the metering, I'm going to make that invisible. And then I can just select this now and then come inside pose mode and do whatever I want to this one. If I move it, the character moves with it. If I scale it down, the character gets smaller. And let's select everything and pose, clear transform all. And I want to select this one and make it smaller. Perfect. RZ 90 to rotate it 90 degrees to here, maybe a little bit bigger. Perfect. Here is the character. If I go back to object mode, I can now make a pose and do a test render. So Ctrl S to save. Alright, now that everything is ready, I want to switch to solid mode for better preview. Select this bottle and make it a lot smaller and bring it over here. I'm gonna give it to the hand of this guy. And next I want to select the rig and switch to pose mode and select these little green ones in here, and then turn on the X symmetry and open up this panel, and under item you can see that I cannot see the Rigify menu, so come to a script and run it here and go back to layout, and it is here. Now a slide FK limb follow all the way to the right, both of them, and then just rotate it like this, and I have to do the same thing for this side to work. And select and rotate like that. And I want to select this one and bring it up. Let's turn off the X symmetry and rotate like this, maybe a bit more. And let's go back to object mode, get the bottle and bring it over here and give it to him. That is still too big, and I think this is good now, maybe a little bit bigger. And select the rig, come to pose mode, select these 4 finger controllers with holding down the shift key, and then switch to individual origins and close them a little bit like this. And I have to select this one only and give it a little bit more. You get the idea. And the thumb, and bring it out of the bottle. And now I can go back to object mode and move the bottle a little bit inside like that. And I want to select the rig, come to pose mode and bring this foot right here. And you know, you can just go ahead and play with these to get the best looking pose for yourself. Alright, this is good. Let's go back to object mode, and I want to hide the rig for now. And let's press N to close the sidebar, and then switch to material preview, and I want to get a test render. At the beginning of the video I just changed it to cycles, GPU compute, and I want to bring this max samples down to 64 for viewport as well. And if you remember, inside color management I changed it to a standard, the view and the look to medium high contrast. Let's make it medium contrast or medium high. And then I need a camera, shift A, camera, and I hit 0 to go inside the camera view, and if I move I get out of the camera. Let's bring the camera up, 0 to go inside, and then sidebar menu, under view lock, camera to view, and now I can find a good position for the camera. I want to make this one a little bit smaller. You know, we have to tweak everything in here, but we need to get a first test render, and maybe a little bit up like that. And inside camera settings, select the camera. Inside camera settings, 50 millimeters is alright. I don't want any depth of field for this shot, but play with it. This is awesome. And let's do a test render by hitting F12 on keyboard. Alright, isn't it so beautiful as a first render try? But by analyzing the image, I can address some issues. So one is this tube right here. You have to go and right click and shade smooth this one, and you can select all the materials, like the material for the shirt, for the short, and bring the roughness up so there won't be so much reflection in here. And what else, even for these walls, you can see the reflection of these flowers into the wall, which is not physically correct. And if you want more flowers, you can just go and select the flowers plane and increase the number in particles, and everything is look fine to me. And this one, I like it so much, the reflection of the walls inside the water. It's really beautiful. You can go and bring the reflection value of the water up, so we're gonna emphasize on that. And beside that, everything is alright. You can just go and you know, move the camera around, make your character sleep in here, sit down here, and make the most beautiful renders. Alright, thank you very much for watching the video. It was a very long video, and if you made it to here, congratulations. Repeat the practice and be a master in it.